Hi guys, this is a tutorial on grids and CSS. I've pre-recorded it because my internet is not looking good and I'm worried that tomorrow our lesson might fail, so this is a backup. It's not edited, so it's got no cuts, so you'll have to just wade through it a little bit, but it should have all the detail to let you know how to design our screen with the CSS Grid function. So let me just jiggle my screen around. Okay, so this was the design we had done using float and then position fixed. And it's sort of kludgy, right? You change one thing with position fixed and it works, and then it doesn't work. You're always creating one problem when you fix another one. So what they decided to do was create a whole new thing in CSS. So if Grid is very new. There's another option, a little simpler than this, called Flexbox. But I chose to use Grid because it's actually pretty simple as well. And it's by far the most flexible. And you'll be able to use this for your all sorts of layouts, okay? So what we did was we just drew out our wireframe, and then I've just drawn along all the horizontal lines and all the vertical lines that I could find. Now this is important. When you guys finish this and you've done this exercise, the next step for you will be to make your own design. In other words, design something different to this. This is very basic. You'll be doing a wireframe just like this, and you'll be working off this. So don't underestimate the power of a wireframe, okay? It's a really useful tool. All right, so let's get cracking. So the code I've got, I just grabbed from the classroom. It's basically the bare bones, remember, of our original site. I just took that and took everything out apart from background color. And you can do that if you want, or you can take the one from the classroom. It doesn't really matter. All right, so our job is to convert this into our the format that we're after. And one of the things we're missing at the moment is we have no footer at all. And if you have a look here, I've put a footer on this one. So yeah, we need a footer. So let's just go into our HTML for a start before we do anything else and type in a footer, huh? I don't know, whatever you'd put in the footer. I will okay, there was a short pause there because I didn't have the extension loaded for wrap. But I've got that now, so Alt W. It's not right. It's a bit strange. Anyway, we shall leave that for the time being. Okay, so now we should have a footer. We don't have a footer. Where's our footer? Let's do this all over again. Okay. This wasn't started. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. There, good. So we can put a footer down here. Should change this. Okay, so there we go. All right, so I'm having a few technical issues. Alrighty, but it's all working. We're getting there. All right, so we've basically got all of our sections that we want to appear. They're all representing bits and pieces of this thing here that we want to make up. So now our job is to get this grid and transform this into the grid. So usually the first thing you do when you're setting up a grid is you highlight all of the text that you want to be included in the grid, and you wrap that in a wrapper div or a wrapper class. And we'll do the same. And I'll call my class wrapper. You can call it whatever you want. And then we can go up here, maybe up here, and we can define that wrapper. And the first command that you need when you're setting up your div is display. To let it know that you're doing a grid. And then what you do is you grab your picture, you have a look at it, and what we have to sort of put in there is we need to say how big these things are. So we can just take wild guesses. We use the command grid template columns. So first of all, we're defining the columns. Now, take a notice of the weird syntax here because it is a bit weird. So I'm going to estimate that this thing here is going to be 15%. Okay. This thing here is going to be, I don't know. Actually, let's work in round numbers. Maybe that'll be better. We'll make that 20%. We'll make this like 60%. And we'll make this 20%. Okay, nice and simple. And we need to do the same thing for the rows. So we're guessing how big is the banner, how big is the body, how big is the footer. I'm guessing the banner is going to be like 10%, 80%, 10%. And we can jiggle around with those later, so it doesn't really matter. So we save that, and we're getting some pretty dramatic changes, but obviously we've got more changes to do yet. So yeah. The next thing we have to do is maybe the weirdest one. We have to relate these names to these classes. And once again, the syntax is a little weird. Just like with the percentages, we're leaving spaces. There's no quote, but there's spaces between each entry. This one's a little weird as well. Grid, where are we looking for? Template areas is what we're looking for. Grid template areas. So what we have to do is we have to put this stuff in quotes. All right. What we're doing is starting from the top left, and we're going from left to right, top to bottom. We're working out what's in each chunk of each bit of the grid. Okay, so the first chunk of the grid will be banner. There'll be banner stuff in there. You just literally type banner, and then you go space. And what will be in this chunk? It'll be banner as well. Banner, space, and then this chunk will be banner as well. And that's what you do. That's how you define one line. Now, you go down, you start a new string, and we start again. So in this chunk, we'll have nav, body, and side. So we're going to type in nav, body, and side. And then in the bottom, we're going to put all footers. Okay, so we've done that, and if we go Control S now, we see no change because we still haven't related this name to our classes. So we're going to do that now. So our banner, which is for us, our header, so we use the word grid -area, and we just type in banner there. And that lets us know what the banner is. And the next one will be the index, which for us will be called the navigator. I'm not getting any changes, and we probably should be at this stage. Might just freeze the screen, see what's going on, and I'm back. Okay, so I've worked out what my problem is. Basically, I've defined banner, and it should know that the top row is all animals are cute. It should go right across the top. It should know that, and it wasn't responding even when I was saving. And the reason is, once again, very weird syntax. You can't put it in quotes, okay? So if I Control S that, you can see, it realizes now that the whole top row is meant to be banner. So make sure you don't put quotes there. So just take a bit of notice about where the spaces are and where your quotes go. And then we'll continue on and we'll just finish filling this out. So the info will be so that'll be side. So I'm grabbing these names here, basically I'm assigning to a class, okay? Body is body. And you can see it's pretty much got everything worked out now, except for the footer, which I haven't done yet. So we'll do the footer. And voila, it's worked out pretty much what our screen should look like. Now we've obviously got to tidy it up a bit. Probably its scrolling is not that great. I personally would like the top row to stay where it is and not scroll. I'd like this to be in the center and, well, a few things that we've had to tidy up, but you can see that it's got the basic outline. So the first thing we'll look at is the body here. So you can see that there's a blue outline around everything, and I believe that's because the body has a margin. So if we set the margin to 0, I believe that will go away. Yes, it does. Okay. All right, the next thing is we want to center our text right in the middle of the panel here. Now, it turns out that Grid has another trick up its sleeve. Apart from setting out all the grids, it lets us center things as well easily. So we could use text align and muck around with that, but there's an easier way. We're effectively going to set up a grid within a grid and only put one thing in it. So in our, do we put here or do we put here? I can't remember now. Might have to try. Okay, that did it. So this is the parent of basically the thing that you want to center. All right, so that's the parent of the thing you want to center. Our index pretty badly needs to be lined up to the right. So we might go to our index and we might, what do? We do text align. Okay, so that puts that in the center. I might just, you guys now pause the video and just see if you can put some padding here, make this look a little bit better, okay? Sort of just tidy up the text a little bit. So pause your video, try and do that. And when you've done it, come back and see how you've gone. So pause now and I'll update mine. You can update yours. Alrighty, so this is what mine looks like. I've made this font a little bit smaller. I've put a bit of padding. You could probably put maybe 10 there. Yeah, probably 10 would be better. And you can see now that because of the padding, the body doesn't work. So you can, we can get rid of this. We haven't got I haven't got my image. So hopefully you guys still have your image. Basically, I had to wipe my computer last night and I didn't put my image here, but I'm assuming you guys have it, okay? So I won't go through that again. I'll just assume you can put your image here. We might want our body to go up a bit. Now, if you remember, I think last time, the problem is we've got a margin here, so we can reduce our margin a little bit to slide it up. We obviously, we could do it another way. Let's do it another way, actually. What you can do is instead of just going padding, you can go padding left, padding right, and padding okay, and that would do it as well. So that means don't put any more padding up the top here. So that's good enough now. Now what I want to really change is I want to get this and stick it on the bottom of the screen so that it's always on the bottom of the screen. Sort of like if we have a look at our application here, we've always got this top and bottom. I want that bottom to always be there. And we can do that a number of ways. One of the ways we might do it is we might size the body. Okay, I just paused then again to test something, make sure I've worked it out. All right, so the first thing I did was I put in this thing called overflow scroll. So I went into body, basically. I'll save it. I went into body, and I want the users to be able to scroll without using this sidebar to scroll everything. I want them just to scroll the body. So I want a scroll bar in here as the option. And you can do that. You can control it with this thing called overflow. And I think you can put auto or scroll. It should work it out either way. So it hasn't fixed everything, but it's given us an option here to do something to see the rest of the column without scrolling the whole page. Okay, so it's not perfect at the moment, but we've got that scroll there. Now, at the heart of our problem is this. It's these measurements up here. So this is the grid template row, okay? So where's my whiteboard? My whiteboard's stopped for some reason. See if I can grab it again. Okay, there it is. So, oops, that wasn't very wise. Okay, so these numbers, if you remember, these columns, they represent the width of these columns, right? And that works fine. And these represent the width of these rows. Now, that seems logical. But the problem is the unit that we're using. And at the moment, we're using percent. So far, you've only seen in a website a couple of things. You've either seen PX, which stands for pixel, and you sort of know what a pixel is, or percent. And we haven't really discussed percent that much. But now we need to. Now, these units are described. There's actually a lot of units you can put in there. You can put in centimeters, EMs, rems, characters, all sorts of things. We don't have time to go through all of that. They're described in the W3 schools under unit length, CSS units. The one we're going to cover now is probably the most important one, but there are others as well. A lot of people would say that we should be using rem rather than pixels or percentages as well. But view height and view width, which is what we're about to look at, they're important. So basically what we need to do is we need the solution to this will be to change the percentage sign to a VH. That will solve the problem. But why does it solve the problem? So basically VH says relative to 1% of the view of the height of the viewport. Now the viewport is the size of the window holding the page. So for example, when I do this, I'm actually changing VH. Okay, so the viewport height is actually changing. The thing is, when we use percent, what that's actually using is a percent of the body. Now the body is a calculated number and it can be bigger than VH. It's basically the number that you get to when you add all of the elements on top of each other. So animals are cute, our body, and the footer. That's how long the body is. So it's a calculated number, okay? And it doesn't care if the screen has to scroll, which sometimes is good. But if you want the screen not to scroll, quite often you'll be looking to use VH. And without a typo. And you can see now what's happening is that what we're doing is saying, make these heights, so this height, and this height, be dependent on however big this window is. And so you can see I'm shrinking down the window, and in fact it's doing its level best to try and keep that row there. And you can see that as I make the view height bigger, the row gets bigger and smaller, and that's because it's now defined as a percentage of the height of the window. I hope that makes sense. We might discuss it in class. Feel free to question me about it. That's it. We've sort of done it now. We've pretty much created what we wanted to. You can put an image in here. You can use the display grid place items, place content center trick, maybe to put your copyright in the middle. And apart from that, we've done it. So what I want you to do, if I don't speak to you on the day, hopefully I'll speak to you with Zoom, but if I don't, what I want you to do is I want you to get out a piece of paper or Microsoft Whiteboard or whatever tool you want and draw a different map, a different scheme, a different layout that your website might be, and try and encode it using what you've learned today in this lesson. So I'm going to leave it there. The other thing I will tell you is that the grid system can be done in many, many different ways. You'll see this completely different if you watch other videos. I'm just trying to give you a warning. If you watch other tutorials, you'll see different methodologies. I've tried to pick what I think is the clearest, simplest way to use grid to produce effective results for you guys. So what's appropriate for you, okay? But just a warning, you'll see plenty of other things. And one of those examples is, you know, when we use the place center, wherever I put my place center. Place center, right? Looks completely different to the usage up here. So off you go and design, draw up. So draw up your own design. Make sure you put lines across all the horizontal lines, and lines across all the vertical lines, and then try and design a grid for it. I'll leave it there. Hope you guys have a lot of progress, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.